Keir Starmer has condemned comments from Elon Musk after the owner of Twitter, or X as it's now known, stated that a civil war is inevitable in the UK. Now, civil war may sound drastic, but something is going on in the UK at the moment and has been for quite some time. In essence, two camps have been forming, and that's only been escalated by Keir Starmer's recent actions, where he's totally misjudged the mood of the nation and effectively emphasised that there are two opposing opinions. In attempting to deal with the riots and keep his Blairite vision of the world going, Starmer has essentially stated that multicultural Britain has no problems, there are no issues with mass immigration, and that only Muslims need protecting. Now, that view may well play well with Muslims and leftists, but the downside is he's alienated the other half of the country by essentially labelling anybody traditionally minded as far right, whether they agree with the riots or not. Yet as much as Keir Starmer wants to make out there are no issues to do with mass immigration and that the riots simply started because of a bit of disinformation online and a few far-right groups, the reality is that these liberal Londoners need to look up from their iPhones once in a while and see that there's been trouble brewing in the country for a long time. Yet since the start of this channel, I've been eager to state that there are major fault lines in modern Britain that we're trying to ignore. On one side, you have the Blairite view of the world, which Keir Starmer stands by. Everything here is materialistic. It's about well-being. It's about left-wing social values. This worldview tends to hold that you can take 1 million Somalians and plonk them in some European capital and everything will be fine. We live in a post-cultural world now, a post-identity world now, and if anybody has any problem with that, they're an evil bigot. Yet the second point of view is much deeper and much more implicit. It senses that there's a certain mythos to the Western world, to Britain itself, that there's a tradition that we follow, that our identity actually matters and gives us orientation in the world, and that it's sad to see towns and cities completely taken over by all sorts of people from the third world. Of course, detached London liberals who work in trendy offices and visit their home counties at the weekend think that you're some evil atavistic throwback for holding on to some sort of identity. They think that you're morally inferior to them. Yet such people seem all too happy to ignore the harsh realities of mass immigration and instead wish to worship the cultures that come here, because that again makes them feel morally superior. However, there are very real problems and they've been pushed down for a long time. This split is sometimes referred to as the globalist worldview versus the nation or traditionalism. But what's really important here as well is there are two moral value systems at play here. You can see this developing on the other side too. This is a popular comment left on a left-wing video on the riots. This left-winger states, the problem is that there are two distinct and completely different versions of British values. The first, and the one shared by most British people, indeed the one shared by most people no matter where they come from, is to stand up to bullies and protect the downtrodden, to share what we have and help each other. That's not just British values, it's human values. Now try and look past the leftist narcissism about how they're all about standing up to bullies and protecting the downtrodden, and you'll see what this person is describing are globalist generic values. And of course there's nothing wrong by nature with these globalist values of seeking to be kind to somebody, but what they're tacitly ignoring is that national values, even regional values, define a people throughout time. Again, they give them orientation in the world. The commenter continues, but there's another set of values. I call it either aristocratic values or empire values. That is to take what you can and claim it for your own, to exploit others for your own gain, to be those bullies that human values stand up against. He continues, the far right, when they claim to be for British values, are really for that second set of values, but they want us to think that they're for the first set, but we can see who they really are from their actions. They are thugs and bullies, and the vast majority of British people, the vast majority of humanity, will not ever support them. Now there's so much going on here, but it's so helpful in aiding us understanding the leftist liberal globalist mindset that Keir Starmer has. They think British history is purely empire. They don't think there was any value to the empire, that the Brits have ever done anything good. Of course, they conceptualise Britain and British values as purely a thing of evil and oppression, a thing that they're against with their globalist universalist values. And this is where we see the great flaw in Keir Starmer's thinking. He simply can't understand that someone can be moral but also disagree with the globalist agenda, that can be upset by mass immigration but also not be far right. And the other irony of this, of course, is that while there's certain crossover in universal values around the world, there are distinct value systems That's what makes cultures unique, so why would you want multiculturalism if everybody thinks the same anyway? Now, this is a great flaw in leftist thinking. Ironically enough, it's very Western-centric. They assume the world holds to universalist Christian values, but they actually don't. There are major differentials between people, and that's what's creating some of the issues on the street, only they ignore it to claim the moral superiority. Henceforth, we're not talking from the same value system anymore. We don't start from the same position. And what that means is that we can no longer communicate, and that only goes to one place. So what are the political options on the table? Well, the left seem to believe if they just yell far right at anybody who's concerned with the situation in modern Britain, everyone will eventually just hold their hands and sing Kumbaya. The mainstream right are globalist liberalists too, so no change there, while people like Nigel Farage do want to stop the boats, but seem to promote this sort of classical libertarianism, which is just one step back from where we are now. And then you have the hard right that demand that much of the immigrants that are here must be sent back to their home countries. However, personally, I feel that's virtually impossible. You'll be crushed by the international elite. They'll probably even wage war on you for trying to do that. And second to that, we've already seen how the authorities react when you have riots in the street. All this means is that we're in for a long old slog, and while personally I don't see a civil war, I do see balkanisation and even sectarianism. We're seeing that forming already, especially in the last election. But the splits are fundamental and growing day by day, but personally I think it's an opportunity not to be downhearted but to be positive, to think we can reawaken a cultural inheritance here, to find a new sense of meaning, even happiness in building a world which actually speaks to British people and British values. Secondly, we're not alone in this situation. This is happening all over Europe. I think Europeans are feeling increasingly like they're not welcome in their own countries, and you're seeing balkanisation happen in France, in Sweden, and so on. Anyway, these are just some of my thoughts. Do let me know what you think down below, and do consider subscribing to the channel.